Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Leolius,
My name's Zach Hudson.
My name is Ziyi He.
and today we will be giving a informational and analytical presentation of how China's new Silk Road will change global businesses. A brief overview of the presentation we will be covering is China's Silk Road, defining what it is. Problem 1, challenge for Washington. Problem 2, unsustainable financial burdens. Prospect 1, Washington's fear will come to fruition. Prospect 2, the new Silk Road will benefit China and others. Go through 3 recommendations starting with focus on Southeast Asia. The second one, make the new Silk Road more sustainable. And the third one, both China and US should initiate more cooperation. And then we'll go through a summary. China's Silk Road is a brand new double trade corridor is set to reopen channels between China and its neighbors in the West, most notably Central Asia and Middle East and Europe. The UNCTAD Belt and Road Initiative Program. UNCTAD is United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, named after a mammoth Chinese infrastructure project to connect over 125 countries, was launched on 28 April. An international conference on sharing policy experiences under China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative is the country's capital, Beijing. But reviews from the rest of the world have been mixed, with several countries expressing suspicion about China's true geopolitical intentions. The aim of the 900 billion scheme is a kindle of new era of globalization, a golden age of commerce that will benefit all. That adds up to 65% of the global population and a third of global GDP. This picture shows the route for the marine and the land transportation for this belt. The initiative will encompass land routes, which is known as the belt, and maritime routes, which is known as the road, with the goal of improving trade relations in the region primarily through infrastructure investments. Beijing says it will ultimately lend as much as 8 trillion for infrastructure in 68 countries. Problem 1, challenge for Washington. Washington has made fierce attempts to persuade nations not to join it, but few listen, and 80 nations are now members, including US allies Australia and Britain. America remains in denial about what Belt and Road really signifies. A quote from Mattis told the State Armed Services Committee during a congressional hearing that in globalization world there are many belts and many roads, but no one nation should put itself in position of dictating that one belt or one road. China has wrapped an amorphous group of products in a tidy package that speaks to inclusiveness and cooperation and altruism. It speaks of China as an environmental leader despite being the planet's worst polluter, as a champion of free trade and investment, despite weathering its economy in protectionist red tape, as a good guy, despite acting as an authoritarianism state that is a serial violator of human rights. China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI for short, involved billions of dollars worth of projects in more than 100 countries. The project started 6 years ago, primarily in Southwest Asia and the countries to expand into Europe and beyond. The participating countries are in the light gray. The red indicates the land corridor, also known as the belt, and the blue indicates the maritime corridor, water routes, also known as the road. As mentioned before, Beijing says it will ultimately lend as much as 8 trillion for the infrastructure in 68 countries. These loans might not actually be financially sound for these countries, which leads us into problem 2 is unsustainable financial burdens. Some of which will be billions of dollars, often end up putting countries financially worse off position, they explain. This could be increased risk for default, repayment difficulties, or it could even be such that certain completed projects have not generated significant revenue to justify the cost. As I mentioned, repayment difficulties and defaults are going to occur in most of these countries. The Silk Road will make these already fragile countries more economically stressed with the addition of the loan payments, thus causing an infrastructure collapse. Many countries do not make enough money to cover the loan amount.
Okay, this is Zach Hudson speaking now. Prospect 1, Washington Sphere will come to fruition. China will essentially be a dictator controlling the Silk Road. It puts China in a good position, but it also puts some other countries at risk. China offers a lot of benefits, but with little or to no strings attached. Many countries that have signed up for the initiative are less developed economies in Africa and the Asia Pacific, as well as struggling parts of Europe. China wants to help contribute to increase globalization, but they want to do it on Chinese terms. The road just may be a status symbol to show how powerful China is, not to help increase globalization. Prospect 2, the new Silk Road will benefit China and others. The road will help improve connectivity in the Eurasian region by interlinking the transport infrastructure across East Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, Central Asia, the Middle East, East Africa, and European countries. It helps to keep China prosperous by overcoming problems associated with its domestic economy, such as decline in export competitiveness due to increasing labor costs and excess capacity. The availability of adequate transport infrastructure is expected to have a favorable impact on promoting the economic development of countries. And the e-commerce is also growing at a rapid pace, and China is one of the most preferred destinations for online shoppers worldwide, especially those from Europe, driven by the lower prices and wide variety of product offerings. Fulfillment of online orders within shorter timelines at lower costs still remains a major challenge in the cross-border e-commerce industry. With development of new routes, the transport time and costs between Asia and China would be reduced significantly.
So my name is Ziyi, and I'm gonna talk about recommendations. So the recommendation first one, it's focus on Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is an important strategic partner in China's new Silk Road. These countries connect China's coast with South Asia, the Middle East and Europe through the Southeast China Sea and Indian Ocean. Indochina plays a significant role in the Silk Road because ships leaving China's east coast have to pass to Singapore through the Strait of Malacca before reaching the Indian Ocean. Indochina can become China's west coast at the same time for the export because of the Yangtze and Pearl River deltas. Shanghai and Shenzhen still are the more convenient ports. Secondly, comparing with the Strait of Malacca, Tai Canal provides a more direct path for all ships. According to Winston Mock, a former McKinsey consultant, Tai Canal could be a landmark project for the new Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which many members are stakeholders. Southeast Asia's internet economy is estimated to be around 200 billion by 2025. China's investment in Southeast Asia digital economy is also based on the new Silk Road concept. China's digital Silk Road is driven by its national tech giants such as Huawei, ZTE, Alibaba, and Tencent. These companies can deliver high-quality products at lower cost, which partially is due to Chinese government support. The second recommendation is to make the new Silk Road more sustainable. To increase the sustainability of the new Silk Road, China needs to enhance the social responsibility in Chinese corporations. According to the World Economic Forum, in recent years, Chinese government departments and industrial associations issued voluntary guidelines for responsible overseas investment. Also, creating the environment for green investment is important. This includes the countries improving their environmental policies, develop green finance guidelines, and green the entire life cycle in the supply chain. Worldwide Fund for Nature defines the sustainable finance in the New Silk Road as it serves the needs of an environmentally sustainable economy and covers the financing and investment need to combat the climate change, preserve and restore nature capital, and enhance ecosystems. The third recommendation is both China and United States should initiate more cooperation. Cui Tiankai, the ambassador of China to the United States, believes there are a great number of opportunities to the U.S. companies available through the new Silk Road projects. He listed that Honeywell International is already working with partners to further oil and gas development. General Electric has signed a number of deals with partners, and they're going to provide power and energy to critical regions. Citibank is providing financing for projects through the markets along the new Silk Road. In this case, both China and the US should increase information sharing regarding high-impact development initiatives to help foster cooperation. In the end, like Alex Chance mentioned in his article, the new Silk Road needs to be shaped in a way that places it on the cooperative rather than competitive side of the US-China relationship. The summary of our presentation are we briefly talked about what is the China's Silk Road, two problems about challenge for Washington D.C. and unsustainable financial burdens. Two prospects about Washington's fear will come to fruition, and the new Silk Road will benefit China and others. Three recommendations about focus on Southeast Asia make the new Silk Road more sustainable, and both China and US should initiate more cooperation. This is our references. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us. Thank you.